Okay, fantastic. We have React installed and now we are going to install Redux. So, what we need to do is in our terminal, we'll open a new terminal process in the project folder, and we're going to want to install some new dependencies. So we want to go yarn add Redux for Redux, React Redux for React Redux bindings, and we want to install Redux Saga. And we wait for those to install. I will unpause it once they've done. Okay, fantastic. So we've installed those dependencies, and now we're going to integrate Redux into our React application. It's a fair bit of setup to get this up and running, but once you are up and running, you're flying, so it's all good. Alright, so let's see what we got here. App.js, return welcome to React. Okay, so that looks like this part of the app. And we've got an index.js file which just renders up to the root element. Okay, fantastic. So, first thing we're going to want to do is, we've got all those imports. Now we're going to start importing some more things. So we're going to import provider from React Redux. We're going to import create store and apply middleware from Redux. Right, so what provider does is it gives us the component which we can wrap our application in, and then we pass this component our store, our Redux store, which houses all of our state, and then there's this provider will pass all of that state through down our application into our subcomponents. Right, we're importing create store and apply middleware from Redux. So create store allows us to create a store, which is essentially a house for all of our state, and then we've got apply middleware, which allows us to apply middleware to our Redux. It allows us to apply middleware to our Redux object. Okay, so we're going to import create Saga middleware from Redux Saga. What's that here? Okay, and then we're going to create a Saga middleware. Saga middleware equals create Saga middleware. And then we're going to make a variable constant called middleware, which is the middleware we're going to pass to our store. And we're going to call the apply middleware function with our Saga middleware. And we're going to create a store, so constant store equals create store. And we'll just pass it the middleware at the moment. And then we'll leave that there. Okay, fantastic. We've got an error here. Equals expected. Well, you're not getting an equals, so cool. Okay, there we go. Fantastic. Let me just run through what we've done here. So we've imported the provider from React Redux, which is going to provide all of our components with state. We've imported create store and apply middleware from Redux, which is going to allow us to create a store which has our state and apply middleware to that store. And then we've imported create Saga middleware from Redux Saga, which is our Redux Saga middleware. We've instantiated a create Saga middleware. We've created a middleware item and applied the Saga middleware to it, and then we've created a store and applied the middleware to the store. So that is effectively bootstrapping our application. Okay, now what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to get some sort of Redux functionality going so we can see it in action. So first what we'll do is in source we'll create a new folder called components, and we'll move in components we'll create a new folder called app, and we'll pass all these app parts into that folder. So we've got app.css, we'll pass that into there. App.js, we'll pass that into there. App.test.js, we'll pass that into there. Fantastic. Okay. I like to name my JSX files JSX because it makes me happy. Just knowing that they're JSX files and they're React related. Okay, fantastic. Fail to build. No such file app.js. Yes, that's because we moved it from there to, so in index.js we want to go components app.jsx, or we'll just call it app. Source components app cannot resolve logo.svg. Alright, so where is the logo? You know what? We don't actually need the logo. I will keep it there. So logo is in, we want to navigate up one directory, so now we're in components, navigate up another directory, so logo.svg. Save that. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so first thing we're going to want to do is we will create a search bar. So we'll create a new component, search bar. So we'll create a folder, search bar. Inside search bar, we'll create a new file, search bar.jsx. In search bar, we're going to import React from React. We're going to make a new class called search bar, and this will extend the React component, and then we're going to export default search bar. So we'll export our search bar, and then we're going to want to render. We'll call the render function, which is what we're going to render in our component. And we're going to return, we'll wrap it in braces so we can do more than one line, and we'll return an input with type text, and we'll give it a placeholder search. Great. Okay, so we'll go back into app index.jsx, and we'll import search bar from search bar. So we go upper directory, search bar. Okay, now to render this search bar, all we can do is we'll render the search bar here. So in app intro, we'll remove this and we'll type search bar to render the component. Now if we watch this, unterminated JSX, my bad. Okay, so in search bar you've got to add the line to terminate the input, my bad. Great, there's our search bar. Now we're going to hook this search bar up to the Redux store. So what we're going to do is the text that we enter into this search bar, we're going to push that to the Redux store. So what we're going to want to do is we will create a new folder in source called Redux. It's going to house all our Redux related code. And we'll create a new folder in Redux called reducers. And what reducers are is they will take input that you pass to them and they'll reduce it down and then pass it into the store, and the store is our overall state. So in reducers, we create an index file, index.js, and then inside of this file we're going to create a constant initial state, which is an object, and it's going to have search bar text, and we're going to initialize that to an empty string. Then we're going to export a function, reducers, and we'll pass the state equals initial state. So you got the initial state, and we'll also pass the action, which is the action that we're going to pass the reducer. Okay, so inside the reducer, it's common practice to use a switch statement. Switch, and we've got action type. So this switch statement is this reducer is going to receive an action, and we're going to switch through the action type, and then the action type that we're going to receive is going to be case search bar text changed. Okay. Okay, so when we receive an action, search bar text change, so the state is immutable, which means we don't modify the actual state, we reassign the state. So what we're going to do is we're going to return object assign, which will return us a new object. So we're going to initialize that with an empty object. We'll pass it our current state, and then we're going to pass it search bar text action payload. So with actions, we pass it a type and a payload. So when we receive the search bar text change action, we will update the state search bar text with the action payload. And then in our reducers also, we have to supply a default. So we'll add default and we'll just return the state. Okay, fantastic. And lastly, what we're going to want to do is in our Redux folder, we'll create a new folder called constants. And we'll create a new file, index.js. And we'll create a new constant, export constant, search bar text changed. And we'll assign that the value search bar text changed. Okay, and then in our reducers, we'll import search bar text changed from constants. So basically what this does is if we're going to use this constant around our application, we can just use the constant variable, and then if we ever want to update the action name, we can just update it here and it will be updated everywhere. Okay, fantastic. So we have our reducers, which are going to reduce our action values into our state, updating the state, and we have a constants file. The next folder we're going to want to create is an actions folder. Okay, inside actions, we'll create a new file, index.js. And what we're going to want to do is import our constant. So inside constant, we've got search bar text change. So we'll import that from constants. We don't have to specify the index file for this because it will automatically look for an index file, which is pretty cool. Okay, so these are our actions. So our actions are actions that we can take against our Redux store that will modify it. So we'll create a new action, we'll export this action. It's a function called update search bar text, new text parameter, and we'll return the type will be search bar text changed, and the payload will be new text. Fantastic. We'll save that. And then we want to go to search bar. Okay, so now we've got our actions that we can pass. Update search bar text. We've got our reducers, which are going to reduce these action values into the state. Now we're going to want to access the state from search bar. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to go put these down. We go to index.js. And we've got our provider, got our create store, apply middleware. Cool. One thing more we need to do is we're going to want to import our reducers now from Redux reducers. We'll import our reducers, and then when we create our store, we need to pass our reducers as well. So we'll pass our reducers into create store. Okay. then when we render our application, we'll wrap it in our provider, which is here. Provider, we'll pass it the store, which equals our store. Close that. Close in provider. Okay, so now our application is wrapped in our provider. So we'll save that. Export default was not found in Redux reducers. So Redux reducers. So we'll export default here. Okay, great. So now our application is wrapped within our Redux provider. So now in search bar, what we're going to want to do is we want to import connect from React Redux, which is going to allow us to connect our actions and our store to our component, and we're going to want to import bind action creators from Redux, which is going to allow us to bind our actions to this component. Then we're going to want to import update search bar text from Redux actions, which is our method that we can call to update our text in the store. And then down here, we're going to want to create a new function, map state to props. We'll pass it a state parameter. So what this is going to do is going to pass our Redux state to props. So we'll return state. So this .props.state is going to have our state, and then we'll pass it the state. So what we can actually do is just pass it state. So that will map the state to the props, and then we're going to want to create a new function, map dispatch to props, dispatch, and we're going to return bind action creators, the function we imported up here, bind action creators from Redux, and we're going to update search bar text. So we'll put that there, and we'll pass it dispatch. So what this is going to allow us to do is going to allow us to call update search bar text as a function attached to our props. So we've got our state attached to our props and our action dispatched to our props. And we're going to export default, and what we're going to do is going to wrap this in a higher order component. So we've got connect, map state to props, map dispatch to props, and then we're going to wrap search bar. Okay, so now we have that sorted. We'll save that file, and if we console log this.props.state, and we open our DevTools, unexpected token. Okay, so my bad, I put that in the wrong place. Put it in our render function. Console log this prop state. We'll save that. And here we have our state. Search bar text is there. Okay. So what we'll do here now in search bar is we'll create a container. And we'll create a new heading element, h2, and we'll pass it this.props.state.searchBarText. We'll save that, and now we should have a new heading element here. h2 cannot appear as a descendant of a p tag. Okay, so we'll change this p to a div, not a dov, div. And here we go. Okay, so that's sorted. So we'll remove our console log, and now we're going to want to call the update search bar text whenever this gets updated, our input. So we'll create a constructor, props, we'll pass it the props parameter, and we'll call super props, which is going to initialize our component because we're creating a constructor function. We need to initialize it properly, and then we'll create a, no, we won't do that. We'll create our constructor there, super props, and then we'll create a new function, handle, we'll call it on search bar text changed. We'll pass it the E for event, and then what we'll do is we'll call this props update search bar text, and we'll pass it E target. So we've got the event target, which will be the element, and then the value. So the event, the target, which will be this, and then the value of this, so which is the value we'll type in. So we'll create that function, we'll bind that function to this dot on search bar text changed, copy that, equals this dot on search bar text changed. So what we're doing here is we're binding this context to this function, so we can use this here. So this is bound to this component and not here when we attach it. So this dot on change, we're going to want to call this dot on search bar text change. So on change, we'll call the function this dot on search bar text changed. We'll save that. And as we type in here, JACOB, excellent. It's updating our Redux store. How cool is that? So this text box now is interacting with our Redux store. So that's great. It's a long video, but hopefully you learned a lot. And yeah, we haven't touched Redux Saga yet, but we'll get there. Okay, fantastic, great. See you in the next one. Peace.